You're listening to the IFF TV podcast.
Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is the match preview, Azerbaijan versus the Republic of Ireland in the World Cup 2022 World Cup qualifiers tomorrow. This show was probably rescheduled more times than I can remember due to Gary Spain having bad Wi-Fi over in Baku. He's over there obviously soaking in all the new sites and everything like that, and touring the mountains of Azerbaijan. But I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Paul Tierney and Ger Brown, and if you don't know them, you probably haven't checked out the Irish Abroad show, which they do weekly, so make sure you go and check that out. Paul, how are you feeling today?
All good, Paul, all good. Looking forward to the two upcoming games and looking forward to going to the Aviva again on Tuesday night as well.
Yeah, buzzing. And Ger, what about yourself?
Yeah, all good. It's been a good start to the international weekend for Irish teams. Under 17 had a comprehensive win last night. You're obviously heading to Tala tonight for a big game for the 21s. Hopefully they can get the 3 points this time against Luxembourg, and then hopefully the hat-trick will be completed in Baku tomorrow evening. Is this a new country that's been added to Gary Spain's list, or has he already been to Azerbaijan?
I think he may have been there before, but because Gary's just mad like that. He does be everywhere, so like he could well have been. All I know is he got a new SIM for Baku, so he's been texting me off some Azerbaijani number and telling me that the Wi-Fi is down yesterday and all. So look, it is what it is. He's obviously away. He'll be at the game and he'll have content coming tomorrow after the match. So anyway, look, we have as good as here with us today. So we'll get into it. First of all, I just want to say nice jersey, Ger.
Thanks. I think it's the own hand era. Would have been just the 1980s. I got it in one of the O'Neill stores up in Newry, and it was up there actually during the summer. But nice. Yeah, it adds to my collection of Italia 90, and I think I have the 2002 World Cup jerseys as well. So building up the replica jerseys bit by bit and getting them and letting the viewers get a good look at them as well.
Well, I love that 2002 jersey, the two of them.
Yeah, it's class.
Good times. But yeah, look, we're facing Azerbaijan tomorrow. I guess we'll address the elephant in the room. I think, Paul, for you, is this game must win? Because for Stephen Kenny more than anyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. It's just must win for even like finishing higher in the group as well for the next qualifying campaign as well. Like that's important too. I think for Stephen it's very important because we were saying the last Azerbaijan game was must win. We didn't perform in that one. Ultimately, we should really be beating teams like Azerbaijan. But yeah, must win, definitely must win.
Ger, how would you feel? Or how do you think it will go firstly, and then do you think it's must win?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is also must win. I think while any chance to make Qatar are all over now at this stage, I still think for Stephen Kenny's sake, we would have expected probably somewhere in the region at least a minimum of 9 to 10 points from these 4 games against Azerbaijan and Luxembourg. And we're looking at 8 points now at best. And you're kind of thinking like that was what would have been needed to kind of keep his job. So I think he kind of has to win. Like I think 1 win in 16, and that's against Andorra, isn't really good enough. And even as just Paul said, I think for other reasons as well, to help our seeding, to help our world ranking, just to kind of help get morale going again. Because like even from a commercial point of view for the FAI, like it's a hard sell trying to advertise and get people to go to the Qatar friendly game on Tuesday night. But at least if we can go into that game with a bit of optimism and looking to make it back-to-back wins, and it'll be a bit of a bounce factor. Whereas if we don't get a result tomorrow even, like you could nearly count how many people are going to be at that game, and probably only a couple of thousand. So as for how I kind of feel it's going to go, I genuinely don't really kind of know, because I don't think Azerbaijan in particular are that good of a side. I don't think they actually played that awfully well at the Aviva. I think, as Paul said, it was a case we were just kind of quite poor, but we have been better on the road. A lot of our more memorable performances in the Kenny era have been on the road, but it's just unfortunately, like as we were kind of saying off air, if we don't score first, or we don't maybe score inside the first half, then suddenly panic stations start to kick in a little bit, and you kind of feel we're in desperate need of a goal here. And you just kind of wonder, we don't really have any obvious name, except for maybe Will Keane, who's been scoring goals regularly this season, and he doesn't have any international caps to his name, so he's untested. Now, the long journey, I suppose, they've been there since Wednesday or Thursday, so hopefully that won't play a factor. But to be brutally honest, I'm confident enough, but like I literally think we might just sneak a victory, to be brutally honest.
Well, I think the thing that's on our side this time is, I know you mentioned about the long journey, but I think off the back of the last game, we came off of a really big performance against Portugal, which probably knocked the stuffing out of the lads the way it ended. And then we then we played against Azerbaijan at the Aviv, and maybe the players were maybe a little bit deflated, or it looked like it took them a long time to get going in that game. I only got to really see the first half because it was my brother's wedding that day, so I only really got to see the first half in that game. So I actually didn't get to see much of it. I got to see Shane Duffy's goal, but there was like a dinner going on, so I didn't get to see the overall game, so I can't comment too much on it. But I think this time around as well, the Azerbaijan game, we probably rested players that played against Portugal because the window's so short. I think this time around, Stephen should have a fair crop of the players that maybe he wants to start, and maybe that, he can put out his strongest team for the first game, no matter what happens against Qatar, and then hopefully try and get the win against Azerbaijan, and maybe the pressure's then maybe off a little bit more for the Qatar game, which I still think we should be trying to win that game regardless. But like, I'm looking at our team, and I think there is players there that can cause Azerbaijan problems. Callum Robinson, Aaron Connolly, Adam Ida, even Ogboni with his pace getting in behind. It'd be interesting to see, does he start? Because Stephen's been a big fan of his. Jason Knight's back. There's other players like that. So there's probably players that we're forgetting within our own squad that could come in there and probably do a job. Now, I know Jason Knight's only back from an injury. So will he go with him? Is he training well? I know he started for Derby there in the last game they played. So he could be an option. But look, I think we're in a far better position this time around playing them than we were obviously off the back of the Portugal game. So I think, I know people, I was saying to Paul off air there, but people are saying about Aaron Connolly, should he start? Shouldn't he start? Sorry. He definitely should start. If he's fit, he definitely should start. I don't care what anybody says. People are trying to say, oh, he's not good enough. He's our best attacking threat. I'm pretty sure he's the most Premier League goals out of our strikers as well. He caused Portugal problems throughout the whole game. When he did play, he probably should have had 2 penalties. I know he didn't score, but I think goals will come with him over time. I think fans need to get behind him rather than against him. And yeah, I think we're going into this game in a much healthier position than we were obviously off the back of the Portugal game. What are your thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Aaron Connolly, but I think you could go with a 2 up front with Adam Ida up there as well as him or Callum Robinson.
I actually said that to him in his press conference the other day. Yeah.
I think you're best off going with 2 in this game. Like, we need to win, and we need to get a couple of goals to get the fans back on side, and even get a player just behind them as well. Keep the 2 midfield solid. Personally, I would have Jason Knight in regardless of how fit he is. Even just start him, give him 60 minutes or something, because I don't think Jeff Hendrick is really lighting the world of light. Obviously, he got a goal last weekend for Newcastle, but the fans want to see Jason Knight, and they want to see goals, and I think that's how we should go about it.
Do you not think off the back of the performance against Portugal, Hendrick done well in the last international window? I actually thought he probably has best window for a long time.
Yeah, I thought he was great against Serbia now. I thought, especially in the first half, I thought he was the only player who really showed anything against a really good Serbian midfield that night. I don't know. I just don't think he's playing enough for Newcastle, and even Jason Knight, who's only come back from injury, has played a lot more than Hendrick has in the last few weeks. And I think, I don't know, I think we want Knight in the future anyway. I think it might work better with him and Josh Cullen in midfield, personally.
They could both end up there. Jer, what are your thoughts anyway?
I think he will go kind of Hendrick. He kind of seems to be, he's kind of trusted go-to, kind of reliable, kind of experienced man from midfield. I know the point that Paul was making, fair enough, he hasn't played a lot of football. Now, he did play 65 minutes for Newcastle last weekend, and you have to remember as well, he scored. So confidence-wise, I'd say even he's going into his camp in a good place. And I agree with you kind of, Paul. Well, I've made my feelings quite clear. I'm not a big Jeff Hendrick fan, but the last international window, in fairness to him, the 2 games against Portugal and Serbia were probably his best performances for an Ireland shirt in a number of years. And it could be argued he played, I think, 90 minutes, was it, in a League Cup game coming into that game. So football-wise, lack of football-wise, it doesn't seem to be kind of a bother from.
He's a fitness freak, yeah, he is.
Yeah, so like, even though I'm not overly kind of gone on him, but I probably will go with him tomorrow night. I'd have definitely no problem starting Jason Knight. I think he's had a promising start to his Ireland senior career. It's touched 12 months now since his time last year where he made his debut, but he has actually got under his belt with Derby. He's got a couple of 90 minutes now. So I'd say fitness-wise, match fitness and all that, I'd say he's not far off, and I think if you were to throw him in, you could definitely trust him for 60 to 70 minutes. I think Josh Cullen nailed on to start. He's been playing week in, week out for Anderlecht, and it's nice for once. Like the last couple of windows, we've had to play on a Wednesday, and Anderlecht played that Sunday. So it's nice, actually, even for his own sake, that he's going to come in maybe even a bit more fresher. So we might see more of him. And I'd agree. I think tomorrow night could be night to go bold, go two up top. Like I know we're away from home, but there's no reason to fear these teams. This side, like I know they came and got a point against us, but like I said, I thought they were poor. I think, like in fairness to Luxembourg, you could say, oh, they had a bit about them. Like Azerbaijan had nothing about them. Like a couple of weeks ago, like they only got their goal because we stood off them and things like that. So I agree. I go with two up top. Question is, who would you kind of go for? I definitely would have Adam Ida there, despite his less game time with Norwich prior to the last international window. And then you're looking like Troy Parrish, which played Callum Robinson down the middle. Do you throw Will Keane in, even though he's inexperienced, but he's got a bit of a goal scoring touch this season? So yeah, it's an interesting one, but yeah, I would definitely go with Jeff Hendrick anyway to start tomorrow evening.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with most you said there. I would say though, it's not a bad problem, the fact that he can't choose between the strikers, because he's got players that are probably in form for the first time in a long time. In fact, we actually have strikers coming in, and he actually left players like Scott Hogan and stuff out and Anthony Scully probably too, who were in form as well. So there is players there in form. Whether he goes with the 3-5-2, I just don't think that he needs to go with a back three at this time around. I think we need to attack these and try and put our stamp on the game. So I think if he goes with a 4-3-3, you're going to get more of an attacking threat, I think. So it's going to be, and with the fact that Coleman's not there, who would normally play on the right side of his centre-back if Doherty's there as well, and obviously when the Stevens back in, he's another player that we forgot earlier on who will give us that natural balance on the left as well. So yeah, it's it'll be interesting to see what formation he goes with. It'll either be a 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2, because they're the two systems that he operates with. He won't go 4-4-2, so it will be interesting to see kind of what way we do set up. And then, you know, because I think Kenny will throw a spanner in the works. Like there could be someone like, I don't know, Matt Doherty could end up playing up front, Cyrus Christie playing right back or something like that. That wouldn't even surprise me at this rate. But what I do think, one of you said it already, is that we need that early goal. We just need to calm ourselves. And look, I think if we actually got an early goal, we could end up getting 2 or 3, and maybe then we can use that then to, you know, if we did go 3-0 up, and I know, look, people are probably saying in the comments this fella's mad, Ireland winning the game 3-0, but like we bet Bulgaria under Mick 3-0, didn't we? In the friendly with Jack Byrne coming on making his debut, James Collins scored and stuff like that. So like we have it in us, but we don't seem to have a belief about us to go and take the game to an Azerbaijani side that realistically, if you put the two sides on paper, we should be beating them every day of the week. I know you mentioned about the goal. Yeah, I think we did stand up, but it was a good goal. It was a moment of magic. It was literally, you stand off players at international football, you're playing against the best players from every nation, you will get punished. It's the highest probably standard of football you'll get, international football. I think anyway, because as I said, it's the best players from all the nations. But yeah, Azerbaijan, you're looking at them, and Paul, I know you have their stats there, so you can give us their stats in regards to their results in a sec, but in all honesty, they're going to be a tough side. We're going to have to try and break them down. They're going to be robust, and they're going to just try to sit back and let us go at them, and then hit us on the counter like they did at the Aviva when they got their goal. I think that's the way they will set up against us, and I think that's the way they set up against most sides. Just set out to frustrate more than anything.
Yeah,
play to their strengths.
Yeah, definitely. Just in terms of their stats, anyway, I'll just do their last 6 games. There's 3 friendlies and 3 qualifiers in that time. They were beaten 2-1 by Turkey. They beat Belarus 2-1. They lost 1-0 to Moldova, which is actually a really bad result considering what we seen with Moldova a few years ago. They lost to Luxembourg 2-1. They drew with us. Obviously, that's their first point in the group, and they were beaten 3-0 by Portugal last time out. So, not great reading for them. Like, overall in
They
the
score
group,
goals, though.
yeah, they do. They go for it anyway, and fair play to them on that. They were actually beaten by Qatar in the friendly game from this group as well. They lost 2-1 in that first one. So, 1 point, and that was against us. It's probably a bit disappointing for us, but if you look at our stats so far in the group as well, it's not much better either. So,
yeah, but I think for Kenny's sake, these two actual qualifying games, the game against Azerbaijan, the game against Luxembourg, he has to get results out of them, or he, look, we all want Kenny to do well. I know the three of us do anyway, and Gary does, but Gary's a bit kind of on the fence about him now at this stage. But I think if we don't get some sort of, like, I don't want to settle for a draw tomorrow. I want to win that game. I'm not sure how I'd be feeling if we didn't win that game. I think we have to go out and win that game tomorrow. And I just think it'll give everybody just a lift. You're at that stage where you just want the ball, like it did against Serbia, to go in off someone and just get the result and then build on the confidence from that. Because the longer it goes on, like, he is going to be under severe, severe pressure. And I think Luxembourg are a far better side than they were years back when they were everybody's whipping boy. I think we all saw that in the game that we played against. They actually have some decent players. They took the lead against Portugal as well. So you have a couple of good players there. You have that lad playing for Dynamo Kiev, I think it is, in the Champions League as well up front. So, like, we have to go out and try and beat these teams because, at the end of the day, I said it earlier, to put the two teams on paper and squads even, we should be doing better. I know a lot of our players are playing League One and Championships and stuff like that, but I still think they're better. Like, I think one of you said it about Karabag. They were playing Dundalk a couple of years ago in the in Europe in the qualifiers, and Dundalk arguably should have beaten them. So, like, I'd imagine a lot of our players are better than the Dundalk side. A lot of our international players are better than that Dundalk side that went out to Karabag and played them and lost. I think we should be going here and beating them, and we should be expecting to beat Azerbaijan and probably Luxembourg now.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say about the Dundalk thing, they probably should have won the first leg, but they did get a run around the second leg and lost 3-0 over there. Like, I just on the Kenny thing, like, for me, as much as I want him to kind of succeed, but at the end of the day, 16 games, 1 win, 2 points in this campaign with 3 games to go. Fair enough, the Portugal game at home again, like Portugal way, it's just going to be a free hit. But for me, like, if we end up this campaign winless, or to be brutally even honest, even if we don't win tomorrow night, and like the FAI decide in November, right, unfortunately, sorry Stephen, this project isn't working, we're going to move on. Like, I don't think any complaints can be had. But the only thing is, like, if we do get rid of Stephen Kenny at the end of this campaign, which I don't want to happen, like, fingers crossed we get at least the 2 wins from these 2 winnable games and the friendly against Qatar, and we have some momentum build up going forward into 2022. But if it is a case the FAI and the results haven't worked out, get rid of Stephen Kenny, like, you still need to get someone who would look with the view of a long-term project, and someone that is at least going to try and emphasise and kind of create a good kind of playing style and good kind of culture. There was one name everyone was floating about with Eddie Howe, but I was listening to the interview off the ball yesterday. Another name popped into my head, and I can't quite think of it. It's gone from me now. But it might come back to me later. But
any club you can think of?
Oh, it's just complete. I've got an absolute mind melt to the most important moment here, Paul. But it's just because they're on about Eddie Howe.
Graham Potter, was it?
No, they're on about. I think he's currently out of work. So there was just because they're always on about Eddie Howe because, like, he worked with low budget at Bournemouth.
Wouldn't have him myself.
No, I don't think he'd take it, to be kind of brutally honest. Like, if he's not going to go taking Celtic.
Roy Keane, people said as well.
But no, I think that's.
I do not want that to happen.
No, like, Roy Keane has already been there in an assistant manager role, and by the end, like, he was kind of like everyone's bully boy, kind of, really, by the end.
Well, that's why Declan Rice now plays for England.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a long-term project at all. I think it'd be there'd be short-term gains there, but nothing major. But that kind of way is what I would be looking for. Obviously, like, people might be looking at is currently at work, but I don't think so. I think his kind of time of not in Forest to show that maybe the game has just passed him a little bit now. But yeah, like I suppose, look, hopefully at the end of the day we get the result tomorrow night and in Luxembourg, and this won't be a conversation come November. And if that manager's name that was in my head yesterday, because I know Alex Neil was mentioned as well, but that's not who I was thinking of.
No, like if there was a manager that deserved to come in there, sorry, Ger, and this might have been Jim Goodwin at St. Mirren would be the only person I'd be looking at right now to come in if anyone was going to. And I don't want anyone to go. Look, you said there, like he has to finish. If he can get results against Azerbaijan and Luxembourg, I don't really care about the Qatar game. I'd obviously like to win it.
Yeah.
But you know, if that was a draw, I wouldn't like to lose it. But if that was a draw, it wouldn't be the end of the world. If we bet Azerbaijan and then we put our prime focus into beating Luxembourg, then he should get the next campaign. I think if he gets the 2 wins there, I think he should definitely get the next campaign. Look, I did an interview with Matt Doherty last week, and he couldn't have said any more great things about Stephen Kenny, how they're coached, how he likes playing for them. The players are playing for the manager. That's evident. Like there's nobody not trying. You can see that they're trying, but maybe that lack of end product in the box scoring that goal hasn't gone our way at times, and ultimately goals win you games. But the performances have been there that say to me that if we can get a couple of wins and we can get that little bit of momentum on our side, that things could maybe go well. So there is 2 sides of the coin here where you're like, and I think that's the most difficult thing, is that even the most passionate Stephen Kenny fan can't stand against the record that he has at the moment. He needs wins. It is a results-based business at the end of the day. We all want him to do well. I don't want to be continuously going on every single time we do a video saying, what manager can come in, who's the favourite. Look, if you were to sack Stephen Kenny tomorrow, if he loses the game tomorrow, there's a danger that may happen as well, by the way. Hopefully it doesn't anyway. But Jim Goodwin would be my next choice if there was someone, just because of the job he's doing at St. Mirren. He's working really well with a lot of Irish players there, and I think he's a really good manager. But that would be the only one who I could even think of that I would like to see if anything did happen regarding Stephen Kenny stepping down or getting fired. But in the meantime, I'd like to see us get the result and not have to worry about that for the moment. As I said, the players are playing for him. Callum Robinson came out the other day as well, the press conference, and backed him as well. So I think another thing is we don't know. I don't know if the players are all going to be available as well, because some of them are not vaccinated. We know that now. There's a danger that they still may miss the game as well. So we're kind of sitting here going, what team will actually go out tomorrow? Someone was after saying in the comments there, James Wilmington said that Jason Knight and Adam Eder are out for tomorrow now as well. So all these things are thrown up. I think one thing as well, when we that's an important thing as well, if you think of the COVID, is that if you look at those results over those games, I'd say in about 8 of those games, Stephen Kenny was absolutely hampered. The squad was hampered with COVID and other things as well. I think people forget that when they just see the numbers and they don't put like sense to it. Then you're kind of like, okay, well, that's the record over 16 games. But at the same time, you need to look at it realistically and go and logically and go, well, how often did he actually get to have his best players playing for him? The Slovakia game, someone sat too close to someone on the plane and missed out. Do you know what I mean? 2 of our better players who, again, we spoke about Aaron Connolly being a threat. He was a threat then, and everybody was making the claim that he should have been starting. So, yeah, rant over anyway. I'll let one of you speak.
Yeah, I think with that Slovakia game as well, we actually played very well and probably should have won it in normal time anyway, going back on it.
If Howard scores that chance, we're into the final against Northern Ireland. God knows how that would have went, but anyway.
Yeah, I see, but there's been so many of that, if buts and ifs, if we had done this, if we had stuck it out against Portugal. Listen, the performances were there, but falling asleep for a couple of seconds or losing a penalty shootout, that's what happens. I think the reality of it is, if this was a Premier League manager, he would have been gone about 5 games ago, with only 1 win in that amount of time. And I don't want that with Stephen Kenny, but that's the reality of it. And he does have to win, at least, including the Qatar friendly, 3 of these 4 games. it'd be nice to even if he got 2 wins, he'll still keep the job for the next campaign. And I think the next Nations League campaign is crucial as well. And they should take it a lot more seriously than they have in the last 2 campaigns, the first 2 campaigns of it, because it's an opportunity of guaranteeing yourself a playoff as well, which should be looked at too, because that's what we'd be looking for in the group anyway a lot of the time.
Yeah,
it's just
Ger,
interesting when Paul says if Stephen Kenny was a Premier League manager, by now he'd be gone. If he was a Watford Premier League manager, he probably would have been gone by the first international window. But
Watford would be gone after the first game.
Yeah, just like your point on the Nations League, I totally agree with you and everything else like that. But I don't think it's a case of that we haven't taken it seriously over the last kind of couple of years. I think by the time the first campaign ran out, the kind of buzz and morale of the Martin O'Neill and Rory Keane era was on the way down at that stage. Like everything broke out about Declan Rice and John Walsh. So I'm not really sure the head was fully in for that. And then the last campaign, like you have to remember, it was Stephen Kenny's first campaign, so it was transition period and start of a new era. And I don't think it was the lack of trying that we didn't win any of them games. And once again I've lost my train of thought there for
Nations League.
For the Nations League going forward in summer. Obviously, I think Gary was saying 4 then June as well. So at the end of a long season, it'll be interesting to see how the kind of fatigue will be with players by that stage. But just actually going back to your original point, Paul, that's actually what I was thinking of was Jim Goodwin, because they're on about managers working on a low budget, and we all know that Jim Goodwin is definitely working on one of the lowest budgets.
I read your mind.
Yeah, but like he's working on one of the lowest budgets in the league that outside the top 2 has a very, very low budget. My only slight, no, look, we don't want to go down this road of conversation too much, because hopefully Stephen Kenny will be leading us into 2022. But my only slight concern, if we were to go down the road of Jim Goodwin, just kind of how quite experienced is he? I'd like him to see him take on another higher profile role than St. Mirren. But as I said, look, that's a discussion for another day anyway.
Yeah, well, I think the fact that he can work with those players and get the best out of them. He's working with players like Jamie McGrath, now he's working with Conor Ronan. There's other players in that squad as well, Joe Shoxey and stuff like that, Irish players who are doing well. So he's just someone who I thought, if we're looking at players within the FAI's budget, I think he'd be perfect. That's all I meant by that, because realistically, that's the reason why Stephen hasn't probably been let go, is because of the FAI's financial situation, because of the mismanagement of the association for so long before that. And we're probably only seeing the fruits of that now, I think, as Gavin Cooney said on Off the Ball yesterday. So I think that's probably the reason why we've been so reliant over the years on the Premier League and the English system of bringing our players through that, and never really looking at our own league as a proper professional league to try and actually raise the standards and raise the profile of the league. In recent seasons, the league's done well in Europe and stuff like that. I think players who have gone across have done well. From the league have done well. Look at Liam Scales is now in the squad. Came in for Ryan Manning yesterday. I think he'll continue to keep doing well. But I think Stephen Kenny's the first manager who's actually kind of been given this crop of players. I don't think he's constantly compared to, I suppose, maybe Mick and the team that Mick had. I still think maybe Mick had Mick was more of a pragmatic manager in that sense, whereas obviously Stephen's more open. But I actually like the way we play under Stephen. It's just that we just need a couple of more goals. When I look at O'Neill, I think he had a far better squad. I think he had far better leaders within the squad, whereas I don't think Stephen has that many again, because you're kind of looking at the older players and then there's the younger players and there's no in between there. Maybe you'd look at someone like Josh Cullen and Jamie McGrath, who are now in there in between, but they're almost coming in as like new underage players because they're so inexperienced at international level. And Jack Byrne types, all that kind of age group were kind of in between the Dohertys and Egans and Duffys, and then you have your Knights, Parrots, Ida, Connolly, all them. So it's kind of like a mix, and Bazunu as well. So it's kind of a mix in between there. We don't really have that, so I think maybe unfair as well to kind of compare Stephen Kenny and the squad he has compared to previous squads, and then you're going back again to Mick McCarthy's first spell in charge, Jack Charlton's teams and stuff like that, where we probably had our best ever. Well, we did have our best ever squads under those managers, and even at times they struggled as well to get results and do well in qualifying campaigns as well. So I think to be looking at Stephen's crop of players with League One, Championship, and very few Premier League players, and the ones that are in the Premier League don't really play for their clubs anymore. Like on a regular basis, I struggle to think of too many that do. Shane Duffy's probably the only one in that squad right now who plays every single week, and obviously we know he came off the back of a bad season last year. But it's great to see him back where he is now again. But I think he's the only regular that I can think of in the Premier League starting week in, week out. When you compare that to other squads in recent times, you would have had players playing in the Premier League, far more players anyway than we have now.
Yeah, definitely. I do think Matt Doherty will get a chance eventually, because I don't think your man, I've said it so many times, I don't think Emerson Royale is up to much at all. I think Nuno will have to see that eventually. And I think the further they go on in Europe as well, they're going to have to chop and change. I know he's been playing in Europe, but they're going to have to change things. And there's so many games as well. I'm sure Matt will get in eventually, and hopefully when he does get in, he will stay in.
I've no doubt about Matt. I know we can trust him to come in and do a job, especially after the last international window. Yeah,
definitely. It just baffles me that he hasn't got in yet, because if he's not better than Emerson Royale, I don't know. But
Tanganga's started ahead of him, I thought.
I think he's out at the minute, because Emerson Royale's been playing the last few games. I've only seen.
I think he got suspended. I think he got sent off against Palace.
Oh, he did. He got sent off against Palace. Yeah. So look, hopefully he gets in soon, because it's disappointing with there is a few lads playing in the Premier League. It's disappointing that only one of them is starting regularly, and that's what you want, really, to be playing at the highest level and starting. Not taken away from the Championship. The Championship is a really, really high level league as well, but you want to be at the top, and that's the idea.
Just on
Ger, I'll give you the final word on it.
Yeah, well, going completely off topic again, wasn't Tanganga's sent off against Crystal Palace though 2 yellow cards, which meant he only would have missed the Chelsea game?
Not sure. I thought I read it.
Maybe not, but
I just seen a red card anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. They lost 3-0 anyway. Usual stuff for them, you know.
In a London derby, they don't seem to like them London derbies. But just even as well, another thing that probably would help Matt, hopefully, in the pecking order at Spurs, Sergio Aurier has now also left the club. Like, he's agreed to have his contract terminated. He's joined Villarreal, and I agree with you. I think, like, even, with another couple of weeks as well, especially after that November international break, like, there's going to be a lot of Premier League fixtures with the busy Christmas schedule. So hopefully maybe then, like, as well, that he could kind of force his way and get his way into that squad. And just even, like, as Paul mentioned about the Premier League regulars, like, as we know, like, from doing the Irish Abroad show, like, last weekend, not the weekend gone by, the weekend before that, like, Shane Duffy was the only starter of an Irish player in the Premier League. Like, and most weeks we still are only looking at.
Was Nathan Collins not one as well?
Not last weekend. So the weekend before that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so 2 weekends ago, I should really say. Yeah, last weekend, like, was probably a decent return. I think we had 3, and then Jeff Hendrick was nearly sub, so he played, a large chunk of the game, played 2/3 of the game. Of course, the only thing as well, Seamus Coleman was playing very regularly for Everton. He would have been classed as second other regular player, but he's picked up his injury. But hopefully when he comes back from that, he can get his way back into the Everton squad. But that won't be easy, because their form hasn't dipped off at all since his injury. So
I think he'll be back in. Godfrey struggled, to be honest with you. He'll be back in, and then hopefully be back for the November window. Yeah.
So but like, it still is kind of like, I know we were saying earlier in the show, like, it's good that Stephen has maybe a couple of options and head scratching to and certain attacking positions going forward, because we do have a couple of players in form. But again, the reality is they're in lower leagues than we would like, and what we're used to down through the years, and that kind of still can't be ignored or taken away. But look, fingers crossed that come 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, we're celebrating the first competitive win in Stephen Kenny era, and the mood will be a lot more lightened and more of a feel-good factor going forward, and we won't be having a discussion about is this a must-win game from, is this a last chance saloon from, because we don't really want that. But unfortunately, it's the situation that he's in. But hopefully that won't be the case after tomorrow.
Well, please God, I suppose we'll get our score predictions, and then we'll finish up on that. So Paul, I'll come to you, then I'll go to you, Ger, and then I'll give my predictions last. So Paul Tierney.
Yeah. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it might be similar to the game at home. I think we will just nick it 2-1. I'm going to go for Adam Ida and Callum Robinson for goals.
And who scores first in terms of them or us?
We go ahead through Ida, they equalise, and then we get a late winner through Robinson.
And then he lifts up his top saying something about the vaccine.
I might get it next month.
Ger?
I'm going to use a little bit of reverse psychology here. So usually when I tend to be negative in predictions, the opposite kind of quite happens. I remember being on due to the start of the year with St. Pat's and saying, we're not going to get Europe. Looks like we are going to have been on here before, giving Ireland predictions like the Portugal game.
5-0 Azerbaijan.
Yeah, so like the Portugal game, I thought we were going to get battered 3 or 4-0. We nearly pulled it off. Wasn't too optimistic for the Serbia game. We got a result. So I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw, but in the hope that there will be a goal in our favour, and I don't really care who it is. But I'd probably go for old time's sake, Shane Duffy from a Conor Hurhan set.
Yeah, not a bad shout. I mean, he's a real goal threat every single game anyway. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. I'm hoping we're going to get an early goal, Aaron Connolly, and then Callum Robinson to seal the victory. And I'd just love to see us just get the win and then just push on from there, hopefully. But that's been it for the match preview. Really enjoyed the chat. Thanks for coming on, lads, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. I know there's comments coming through there. A lot of people are talking about the 17s winning last night. Cormac O'Brien says under 17s across the board are incredible prospects they are. Great win for them last night, and hopefully they can kick on from there. Really good players there, as you said, across the board. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Is this game must win for Stephen Kenny? How do you see the game going? And just let us know your thoughts on anything we spoke about in the comments, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching.